Verde Valley was originally inhabited 10,000 years ago because of the water. It was re-inhabited by another culture probably 2,000 years ago, and it is inhabited by our culture simply because it has water. So my name is Steve Ayers. I'm the Economic Development Director for the Town of Camp Verde. I've been in my position since 2013. I have a commitment to protecting the Verde River, so I've involved myself in a lot of different projects around here relative to protection of flows, as well as impacts of groundwater. The Verde Valley is a really unique place. Here in this desert where surface water is a rare sight, we have not only the Verde River, but we have 3 tributaries that come in here that flow into the area that run year-round. And it makes it kind of a lush paradise in comparison to much of the rest of the state as a result of that. And I think that's what defines the place. Yeah, we've seen a continual, steady growth factor, not just here in Camp Verde, but in Sedona, in Cottonwood, Clarkdale. It's universal. The Verde Valley is a very desirable place to live, and it will remain a desirable place to live as long as we continue to protect it. The groundwater pumping impacts the surface water flows of the river. And I think there's a broad consciousness of that. If somebody comes in here to develop land, the first conversation we would have with them would be like, so you're going to sink $20 million into a development here. That's great, we appreciate that. But keep in mind you're sinking $20 million into a river, because otherwise you're going to look like every other town in the state. So now let's have the fundamental conversation about how you utilize water in that development. And the amazing part is that most of them listen to you. I think it's just human nature that if you're going to invest in a place, you don't want to mess it up. And we have been really fortunate to have some developers in here that get it. The town has made a lot of infrastructure investment and will continue to make infrastructure investment that is healthy for the river. Don't have as much of an ability to control wells and groundwater pumping, which is what needs, frankly, to be fixed. It's probably the one piece of the equation that we still struggle to figure out. How do you bring in 2,000 people and say you're not using that much more water? Well, what you can do is make sure they're hooked up to a common water system. What you can do is make sure that they're collecting as much of that as you can. I think we need to go to more gray water use and some other things that the town is working towards, but certainly not there at this point. I would hold up the park as being our first, it's not even gray water, it's A+ effluent out there on that park. So, yeah, it's money. That's our struggle, finding enough money to do the right thing. The town would do the right thing at a heartbeat if we had the money and the resources to do it. So if we don't do what we're trying to do right now, and we don't do it in a timely manner, I think the ultimate disaster is that we have a dry riverbed. And that's really not something that anybody here wants to see. I think there's a natural inclination in most people to believe that growth and protection of the river are counter to one another. And I don't see it as that way. I would want the state legislature to understand that we need local control. We have to have more tools in the toolbox, first. Second, we need to recognize that groundwater and surface water are connected. They're not legally connected in Arizona, and therein lies the great dichotomy of being able to find some really elegant solutions to this. Third, I think at some point we have to realize that there's a cap and trade on water in the state. It's just got to happen, and that will be, I think, the result, to some extent, of the adjudication process, because then we'll know who has the surface water anyway. And then I think at that point you have some claims like, your groundwater pumping is destroying my legal right to the access to the surface water. So I think if we can attack those 3 things, we can start to find some solutions to it.